gone in 2 weeks. So I was like, whoa, maybe there's something here that we didn't expect.
What does building a startup look like? Wearing a lemon costume and playing the drums for social media.
We can help them tell the story of Indiana agriculture in a really unique and modern way.
What's the biggest misconception about owning an alcohol brand? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Before we get into the show, I need to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by my friends at NCW. You might remember when I had Dan Mattingly on the show talking about how they built a national staffing and recruiting company over the past 25 years, specializing in skilled trades. They are looking for new members to join their team. If you're looking for work in recruiting, sales, or general business operations, you need to check out teamncw.com. Not only have they been voted a top workplace by Indy Star, listed on the IBJ Fast 25, and featured on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest private growing companies in America, but I also have a personal laundry list of friends that work at NCW and absolutely love it. To learn more and check out their open roles, check out teamncw.com and tell them you heard about it on Get In during your interview. Today, my guest is Dan Farner, the co-founder and CEO of Indiana-based Shake Up Cocktails, formerly High and Mighty Distillery. They're best known for their canned lemon shake-up that launched at the 2022 Indiana State Fair. They have a mission rooted in family, fairs, and flavor. Dan has grown a regional canned cocktail brand recognized across multiple Midwestern states. We're going to be talking about how they built this distillery on the grounds of the Indiana State Fair, the Indiana State Fairgrounds, right? We're going to talk about how they've expanded. They had to go through a rebrand. The process goes there. But today they work with some fun university partners and have some really cool things coming down the pipeline. I'm really excited to hang out for a while. Dan, welcome to Get In.
Thanks, Nate. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I have to give the background. So I usually start every episode talking about how we ended up getting connected. The first time I ever got to hang out with Dan, he was in a lemon costume
Yep.
playing the drum set for our good buddy Ian's band.
What?
As a promo, remember, on his back porch.
I'll never forget, but I didn't remember that you were there.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I shot that video.
No
that was like
kidding.
early on when I had just gotten like into content.
Wow.
And I was like, Ian was a good buddy of mine promoting his show. And I was there kind of like the creative director of this promo where they were singing and you were playing the drums as Lemmy.
We launched this product in 2022 at the State Fair, and we thought, like, what can we do to really kind of like make ourselves known? Like, how do we stand out? And so we were like, what about a mascot? And we had this little character on our old cans, and it's like a lemon mascot. Doesn't have any arms. It's got legs and cowboy boots. And so we were like, we got to make a mascot of that. We had our friend Jess West, who makes costumes. She should be on the show, by the way. She was on like a Netflix like competition.
Jess West?
Jess West Costumes.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, she made this costume. Flash forward a few years when we met, my friend Ian wanted me to wear the costume while playing drums. I'm a drummer. The catch with this thing is that you can't put your arms down. So your arms are out like to the sides like this. And then also you can't see. There's like little things that you could see, but like you can't bend over because you're in a giant lemon. And so I'm basically like this, can't see anything, just like,
And we had to do like 7 takes of it, I feel like.
Yeah, probably, but it wasn't too bad.
No,
it was fun.
The video turned out great. It was awesome.
It was kind of a hit actually for Ian, whatever, working with Ian and getting
Oh yeah, that's so fun.
And
like,
concert.
It's like, what does building a startup look like? It looks like wearing a lemon costume and playing the drums for social media.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I guess I don't even know when that might have been 2024, 2023.
Probably at least 23.
Probably 23. So that was like you were a year into it, like you were figuring it out. But the story kind of starts before that, where you and your wife Jamie decided to build this brand. Kind of give us some background of how this brand came to life.
Yeah, you bet. Well, so I've lived in Indy now since 2006, so almost 20 years. Grew up in Chicago. I've lived here longer than I lived there, so I'm a Hoosier for sure, and this is home. She grew up in the Northwest Indiana, selling barbecue at county fairs with her dad, and so she grew
What part
up,
of Northwest Indiana?
Crown Point.
Crown Point, go Bulldogs.
Crown
Right.
Town, yeah. Lake County Fair, shout out. So we spent a lot of summers up there, at the county fair and like
Selling barbecue.
Yeah, and so she was drinking lemon shake-ups as a kid. It's like a nostalgic thing. Like they would show horses. They were like fair life, right? Her dad would like literally sleep in his truck at the fair, smoking meat throughout the night.
That's legit.
Impressive. Yeah. Anyway, when we realized that we wanted to go into business together, kind of, we're cocktail nerds, and we thought, maybe there's something here with these canned cocktails, because a couple years ago it was really just starting, like during COVID, right? Now they're everywhere, but back then, a couple years ago, not so much. But we thought, like, what is more nostalgic than a lemon shake up? And then, flash forward like a year or so, we got in contact with the Indiana State Fair, and we were able to actually build our distillery there. So I'll go into details on that, but that's really where it all started. Is my wife growing up, in the fair life, in fair culture, and then, realizing that flavor profile, especially with the lemon shake up, and there are others with fairs like, like elephant ears and things like that people like, they look forward to every year, and like it's a special experience.
It's interesting because it is a delicacy, right? Like, you don't get elephant ears every Tuesday.
Right.
Like, you get them when you go to you have to go to a place and experience a thing, and it takes you back there.
Yep.
Like, mine is always that, like the Dairy Bar ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just unique.
Yes.
Like, the flavor, like and it takes me right back to the Marshall County Fair in Argus, Indiana. Shout out. Were you guys like from the beginning, like when you guys got married, you started careers? Like, yeah, we want to start a business.
Not exactly, but I kind of have a entrepreneurship background. My parents ran their own business, and I went through school for entrepreneurship at Ball State. And we had 4 kids in 4 years, so our life was a little nuts for a while there. We had twins. It was a BOGO. So there's a good story there with our gin later. But I think that like we got to take a vacation away from the family out to Maine in 2019, and that was like a chance for us to kind of just like zoom out and like dream a little, and we realized that we wanted to go into business together. So so I mean, since 2019,
there are pluses and minuses. There are people that are pro going into business with your spouse. There are people that are like, no, it just wouldn't work for us. What makes it work for you guys?
We did a bunch of therapy before that, so I think we were in a really good place in our marriage generally. So there's that. Like, I think on the emotional side, like, you have to really work through all the stuff that can kind of accumulate, all the conflict in your relationship. We also, my mother-in-law lives with us, her mom lives with us, so we have kind of like a multi-generational household, but she, is like a third parent, and so like it helps with flexibility. Like, she can babysit, we can travel, we can do, we can be out on the town working at events or whatever. So, those kinds of things really seem to help. And then eventually you hit a stride and your kids are old enough, and our youngest are 9 now.
Oh, yeah.
They can party a little bit by themselves here and there.
There we go. Okay, that's good. I always love that because we've had a few different spouse or family businesses, and those dynamics are always interesting. Okay, so it's 2019. You get back from Maine, and you're like, we want to go into business together. Did you know from coming back from the Maine trip that you wanted to get into the alcohol business, or what were you thinking?
Part of the inspiration is that like whenever we travel as a family, like we're a lot. Like we come in hot, and like kids are just like, running around and whatever. They're a little older now, so like if we ask them to sit down, they will. But like back then, it was just like, all right. So anywhere we would go, we would need to go to like a restaurant or what have you with a lot of space. And oftentimes breweries seem to accommodate like larger like outdoor spaces quite a bit more. And so whenever we travel, we'd like hit breweries because the kids could like run around and we could have a drink, whatever. So that was kind of the initial inspiration. Probably would have started a brewery if it were 10 years ago. It was more about like having a community space that was accommodating for like families and what have you, events, that kind of thing.
Okay, so then you land on distillery.
Yes, we land on distillery because there weren't that many in Indiana. I mean, even still today, there are a couple dozen, but most of them you probably never even heard of because they're small time or in small towns, what have you.
It does seem like the distillery was like 10 years maybe behind like the distillery boom and the craft cocktail boom.
Yep.
Like, I mean, craft cocktails 5 years ago, 5 years ago, 2020. Yeah. I don't know if people were talking about craft cocktails as like that's just rolls off the tongue today.
For sure.
It was definitely craft beer, all through the like late 2000s to the 2010s. It was like really hot, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
And it's still like very prevalent. Like, people drink a lot of craft beer, but I feel like craft cocktails the last 5 years probably have just been up and to the right.
Oh yeah.
So you guys land on distillery.
Yep.
And are you guys working at the time? Do you quit your job? Like, how does this look?
Yeah, I worked for myself. I run ad campaigns for brands, or I have historically. Now
Yeah.
I'm officially full-time with Shakeup, but prior to this, I worked in advertising and a little bit of software, but I worked for myself and was able to work from home like during COVID. And so I had some flexibility to be able to like, start this, treat it as like a client, if you will.
So you guys decide you're going in on this. What does the first steps of starting a distillery look like?
Yeah, there's a lot of red tape. Unfortunately, in Indiana, there's even more so, just like a lot of hurdles. First things first, you had to have a concept. And so actually one of the things that we did first was there is basically like a distillery school you can go to down in Louisville. It's called Moonshine University. It's awesome.
You're a proud graduate of MU?
I am, absolutely. And you can do like a 1 week long workshop. And it's not cheap, but it's like you literally learn everything that you need to know from like a regulatory standpoint, like, you know, understanding like financials, like marketing. I mean, literally.
Moonshine University.
Yeah, Moonshine University.
Home of the Shiners? Go Shiners, baby! Come on. All right, so you guys, it's a week long, intensive boot camp.
Yeah, so I did it in September of 2020. So it was like COVID, everybody was masked up, and you know.
So in COVID or in September, you're on site still though, not a virtual.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you're down in Louisville learning how to operate a distillery.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest takeaways from Moonshine University?
I mean, honestly, one of the biggest takeaways is that like we had a special concept, and at the time we did not have our agreement ironed out with the Indiana State Fairgrounds yet, but we were in talks with them, and that was like one of the first pieces of validation was like, okay, we have a unique setup here, like a really unique concept. Whereas a lot of folks, they're like, you know, talking about starting farm distilleries, and like that's a real destination, you know, to draw people out into the cornfields, you know, and so that was like step one was validation.
How did you get in contact with, like, how did you get the conversations rolling with the state fair?
So we live very close to the fair. We're just south of you here in South Broad Ripple, 40th and Central roughly, and so literally like we take our kids over to the fairgrounds to like ride bikes around and stuff like that. Anyway, a friend, a very close friend, was talking to the fair like around, let's say it was like late 2020. You know, during COVID, they had like almost a zero revenue year, like no state fair, no events, like nothing in person in 2020. And so the board for the fair, which is state funded, was encouraging them to kind of diversify revenue streams. So they were like looking at like, okay, what assets do we have that we can use to kind of bring in some financials? And one of them was buildings. They have a bunch of huge underutilized buildings. And so like, all right, what if we find some tenants? And like literally we came knocking like right then and there, and they were immediately interested. And the reason I think is that, you know, we can help them tell the story of Indiana agriculture in a really unique and modern way. You know, people can understand, like, I mean, you think about like, you know, cornfields and soybean fields and like, you know, what is that actually used for? Oftentimes it's feeding cattle or what have you. In this case, it's like botanicals that we can grow are turned into gin, you know, and like people can see that, they can understand it. So it's kind of a cool way to kind of tie it in.
I feel like the one thing though, for better or for worse, Indiana isn't always quick moving on whether it's breweries, distilleries, sports betting, all the things. Mm-hmm. So like going to the state fair that is funded by the state of Indiana and getting them to sign off on one of the tenants being a distillery, was that hard?
Shockingly, no. And truly, I mean, they have a very special, unique, like leadership team there. And there was a board decision, but, you know, I think the leadership team had a real vision for us. It seemed like the right fit at the right time for them and for us. And
that's awesome.
Still is.
And I mean, and the fact that it's a shake at the time. So High and Mighty was the original name, but the flagship product was that lemon shake up.
Yep.
What is it? Was just called the lemon shake up?
Yeah, lemon shake up canned cocktail.
So, you know, there was a lot of synergy overlap there, but was the original concept to open up a destination where people would come and hang out at?
Yes, and that was that was probably a bigger part of the draw for the fair, is that they were looking for like an amenity on site. They have all these events, like at the time it was like the Fuel and like basketball games. IUPUI was playing basketball there, and like tons of, like every weekend there's an event at the state fair. But there's nowhere for people to go inside the fair besides like the concession stands for like food or refreshments or whatever. And so like they're like, all right, if we can keep people on the fairgrounds longer, they're likely to spend more money here, have like a better experience, tell their friends. That was the plan originally, was to open this destination like bar, tasting room, restaurant concept inside the fairgrounds, and really just kind of capitalize on that foot traffic that comes in.
Yeah, that is the thing. Well, was the thing when the Fuel were there. It's like Fuel games rocking, good time, but you need to be like Broad Ripple or South Broad. Like you have to go somewhere different and like, you know, get dinner or whatever before, and then you like have to Uber over to the game or whatever. And like there wasn't necessarily anything right in the neighborhood there to get rolling. So that was the concept. Obviously that has shifted. How did that evolution kind of come together?
Remember, that was like our dream. That was the original vision. It was like 2021. You might remember back then, like interest rates started skyrocketing. We were pre-revenue, so we had all these financial plans, bring them to banks and, you know, to try to bring on some funding for the build out of this bar, restaurant, tasting room. It was about like a $1.2 million project. They were still funding breweries at the time, but distilleries were new. For whatever reason, the difference was big in people's minds. So finding cash was hard. I had 2 bank deals that went to the very last decision point, and they both died at like the board committee decision. And one of the questions that I got back was, doesn't gin make people go blind? So it's like, and obviously like, Moonshine did that like whatever 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, so it just goes to show that I think that there's kind of like a gap in education and what distilling is modern day. So anyway, we had those 2 deals die. That took like 9 months, and it was like, all right, we can't wait another 9 months. So let's just bring our products to market, and then we'll come back to like fundraising for the restaurant concept.
Yeah.
So we launched 3 products. It was twin gins. So we had 2 gins, a floral gin and a savory gin, which is like a fun, like little Easter egg story with our twins. And then we launched this lemon shake-up can cocktail. We launched it right around the fair in 2022, and this thing just took off. And like, we didn't see it coming. Our distributor at the time they said like, hey, why don't you make like a pallet or 2, and that'll probably take us the whole summer. And a pallet is like 100 cases. You know, that's like 2,400 cans roughly. They're like, yeah, that'll last us a summer. Well, guess what? It was gone in 2 weeks. So I was like, whoa. And we did not have plans. Like we didn't have anything prepared. You know, like I'm not, you know, working on this part-time. Like, you know, we're still getting our bearings. And so, you know, that was a challenge, but it gave us like kind of this like idea that, okay, wait, maybe there's something here that we didn't expect.
Where were they moving? Like, where were the 2,400 cans in 2 weeks? Is a lot.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was the Indiana State Fair. They're being sold there directly. So, like, at the bars, at the fair, through Uric Concessions, who's awesome.
Oh, that is like easy money.
Yeah, right.
Like lemon shake-up cocktail, come on.
Yeah, bingo. But secondly, it was like, you know, off-premise, so that would be like retail, like liquor stores, not grocery yet, but like some bars and restaurants here in Indy, but also like lake towns and like Northwest Indiana, like by Lake Michigan, like resorty kind of towns.
Yeah.
And even in some rural spots, people who just kind of have grown up on, you know, understanding lemon shake-up, that being a part of their like nostalgic childhood memories.
Question before we kind of pick up back of you sell out in 2 weeks. Why gin?
There's a billion vodka brands. And honestly, both on a sponsorship level and at the retail level, they like kind of categorize products by their base spirit. So like, oh yeah, we already have 4 vodka cocktails, so we can't bring on another one. Doesn't matter if it's like lemon shake-up or long drink or whatever it is. So, you know, that was part of it. We love gin. Gin is kind of like, it's a unique spirit. You can do a lot with it, especially making cocktails. And also it's not aged. So like, for instance, like if you're starting a distillery, you don't have to like put back whiskey for 4 years, you know,
Yeah.
You can release it right away, which is kind of nice. So that's really what it came down to.
Yeah. Okay, so you launched 3 products. How did the twin gins do?
They did well at bars and restaurants. So a lot of the craft cocktail bars, we were talking about the craft cocktail movement taking off around the same time. They got it right away. They picked it up. We created this savory gin that is pretty unique and that you can't really find. I mean, there's still nothing really like it out on the market. And so bartenders around here just, you know, went nuts for it. And you can still find it in some of the, you know, the best, my favorite cocktail bars here in the city. We realized very quickly that it was a very different audience and different sales process. So like bars, you're selling to bartenders. They might buy one case. It'll last them 6 months. Canned cocktails, you're selling to liquor stores. They might buy 10 cases and it'll last them 2 weeks. And so it's like, okay, we can turn this over a lot quicker. And so it just became really hard to kind of like justify both of those sales processes. And so we just kind of eventually realized, all right, we got to make a choice. And the choice was to go all in on the Shake-Up brand.
Today's episode of Get In is brought to you by Cowpokes Work and Western, baby, a local Indiana shop that has built its name on quality clothing and boots that fit your American lifestyle. They carry trusted brands of boots, hats, and clothing that work just as well for everyday life as they do for a night out. What I love about Cowpokes is how approachable they make your experience. You can walk in not knowing a thing about a pair of boots or a hat, and the staff will get you fitted with something that looks good and lasts. For me, that's the difference between a one-time purchase and something you keep reaching for over and over. If you're ready to upgrade your boots, your wardrobe, or even just your go-to jacket, Cowpokes is a place that we send people. You launched in 2022. You guys sell out 2,400 cans in 2 weeks. So you probably don't even make it to the end of the state fair.
No, not really. I mean, we basically like made enough to make it through the state fair, but then like that was it. And you know, we just didn't really have the back stock to like finish out the year strong.
So then what, I mean, you sell out, it's awesome, but it's also like you kind of need to capitalize while momentum is there. So then you kind of like stall to zero.
Yeah.
You got to like go back through the whole distillation process, get those recanned, all the stuff there.
Yep.
Did you have a full facility on the Fairgrounds at that point?
We did. It wasn't fully operational yet. We were kind of outsourcing some of the processes, but by May of 2023, we were like fully operational.
So then you do, you know, those 2,400 cans. When do you get more cans? Like how long does it take you to get back to market?
I mean, I think we got back to market by like September or so.
Okay, so like a month or so?
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, mostly because some of the raw materials are harder. Like there's a lead time. So like cans, you know, and at the time there was a candemic because like, you know, it was like everybody the manufacturing plants, they stopped making cans because like, you know, everything ground to a halt. And then like everybody bought the cans and so then they were just gone, right? Yeah. So stuff like that. It's kind of wild.
No one thought about the candemic, right?
We should have prepared for the candemic.
The candemic. Okay, so you get back rolling. Was there like feedback or pushback of like, okay, the fair is over. Like this was fun, but like whatever. Or like, how do you just keep rolling?
There was pent up demand. It worked in our favor in a way we just didn't expect. Like people were like, especially because I was really, really active on social media. My background running ad campaigns, especially on digital, like we were hammering it, like building up this demand, like this thing sold out and, you know, whatever. And so oftentimes scarcity drives demand. Yeah. And so like as an example, just south of where we are here today, there's a liquor store called Sobro Spirits. It's like kind of like our hometown liquor store.
Wait, is that the one that's like right next to the gas station?
Yes.
Yeah.
They rule. They literally were taking down phone numbers and email addresses, and they had 100 cases pre-sold for when we came back online.
When is that due to people got it at the state fair, they had it before, or is that due to like you're in the neighborhood down there and like people?
Little both. Yeah. Little of both.
Or you just like, hey, $5 go in there and get, you know, pre-buy a case for us.
Yeah. Little both.
That's awesome. No, and that's like the demand, the drop, kind of like the scarcity, like that can work in your favor for sure. Like we do that for all of our merch drops. Like everything is limited. And once it's gone, like we don't do another, like we have to think of a new concept or design or something different versus like just like hammering the same things over and over again. So yeah, there's definitely a whole strategy behind that.
Yeah.
So you have at one liquor store specifically, you have 100 cases pre-sold. Like that's incredible. How do you continue to build off that momentum? And like, what was the next big domino to fall for y'all?
Yeah. Well, we launched kind of like a fall cocktail that fall, which gave us a chance to kind of work directly with retailers a little bit more. So, you know, we kind of got that out there.
Is that which one?
It's called Spiced Apple Sidekick, and it's honestly delicious. It's like our deep cut, if you will, like a spiced apple. Like we use all real stuff, so it's like real apple. We make it with brandy, which is delicious.
I actually remember this one.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah, it's awesome. But anyway, it gave us a chance to like continue like figuring out how to do sales and, you know, travel around the state and that kind of thing. And then so that when it came time for spring to like kind of get back on the lemon shake-up train, like we had a bit of a process.
Okay. So this is spring of 23. Probably around the time that I ended up meeting you.
Yeah.
High and Mighty, you're rocking and rolling. But are you working on this full time yet?
No, I was literally, my first paycheck / full-time day was January 1st, 2025.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So you still had 2 more years. Was it Jamie full time?
No, I mean, we were working pretty much full-time in the business, but not like, I mean, we were unpaid interns, we could say. Our distiller was full-time.
Okay.
All of 23, 24, 25, and he's our business partner. He's awesome.
You're rocking and rolling, gearing up for spring of 23. But like, what? Give us like a size. Like, it's still a very local brand at that
Yeah,
point.
for sure. And I think there was kind of like an X factor that happened then, which is that like we had a little bit of cash available for marketing. And so we went pretty hard into like social advertising. The second thing that happened was we started working with Johnson Brothers of Indiana, their distributor. They're probably one of the largest now.
How hard is it to get? So before, who was your distributor?
They're called Crossroad Vintners.
So like kind of maybe a more localized, smaller
Yeah,
brand?
they're more of a wine and spirits brand distributor. They do really well with like, restaurants, bars and restaurants, like all the bars and restaurants around Indy that you would love and visit. Like they partner really well with them, but they weren't necessarily built for selling volume of canned cocktails at retail, at grocery, across the state. So we went from like a 10-person sales team to like a 200-person sales team.
How do you get in with someone like Johnson Brothers? As like how do you prove out that there's a space for you? Because again, this would have been 23. It was starting to get more competitive. Today in 2025, it's very, very competitive.
Yeah.
I've had the founders of Mom Water on.
Yes.
I've had Bryce on.
Yes.
And he talks about like, sometimes it's like getting lucky, right place, right time, like new concept coming to market. But what was that story for you guys?
We got really lucky. They were courting us, which is pretty rare. It turns out. Mom Water, I think at the time was leaving Johnson Brothers for a different distributor, that was part of like a larger deal or something like that. So they literally like there was a spot on their roster for an RTD canned cocktail, and like we were the new like thing in Indiana. And so it was just like it was right place, right time for sure.
And how did that change the trajectory of your brand?
Significantly. So we went from like being in like 20 stores to being in like 300, like over the course of a couple months.
Sometimes though, with rapid growth, like comes new problems, like unforeseen stuff you didn't know about. Was it like, just because they're on shelves places, like the worst thing that can happen is you get a shelf space and then it doesn't move.
Yep.
How were you like providing the marketing air cover, or just like, how were you moving?
Yeah,
cases?
we got really aggressive like on the grassroots side. So I talked about the social media marketing, and we were playing up lemon shake up like, hey, remember the drink or whatever you grew up drinking at the state fair, or at the county fair, guess what? Now it's in a canned cocktail and it tastes just like a lemon shake up, which is true. Because we use real lemon, we use all real stuff, it's good. But then secondly, we went hard with events. So one of the ways that we met was partnering on events. We went we didn't do any events in 2022 to doing like 100. And at that time, Jamie and I were doing them ourselves. So we were out in the market, like meeting people, and people love meeting the owners, right? And so it was like very much mom and pop. But it did definitely burn me out.
Oh,
it was
for
intense.
Sure. We did the Indy 500 together in 2024.
Yep.
And we had all Indiana, everything, brands. And in the infield of the Indy 500, like people didn't know they needed a lemon shake up, but they were the first thing gone. Like, everyone was like, oh, dude, come on, it's hot.
Yes.
It's the infield. So you're doing all these events, you're growing kind of the grassroots way.
Yep.
When you say that you were in 200, like were they all based in Indiana?
Yes, at the time, because the way distribution works is like you have to have a different distributor for every state.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of a legal constraint.
Yeah. Okay. So you start to like get some traction across the state of Indiana.
Yep.
This is like you're going through 2020 and you're gearing up for State Fair 2023.
Yep.
How does that go?
Yeah. Well, first thing we knew is like we needed another product because the lemon shake up was hot at the time, but we needed something new to talk about from a PR standpoint, and so we kind of put it out to our like social audience. We're like, hey, what would be the next flavor you would want to see? And like literally they voted. And like, so we did kind of like a crowdsource kind of thing. And cherry lemon shake up is what was chosen. And so we made a cherry shake up. We launched at the fair in 23 and boom, we had like another, knockout. And so, we had a little recipe, it was like Grassroots and social and audience engagement, like that was really working. And then it was driving demand. And then we could kind of keep up on the sales side because we had a larger sales team.
I mean, incredible. Love that. Well, at what point did you get picked up to go into other states?
Yeah, so we kind of made that decision towards the end of 23. We were like, all right. Well, first of all, at that point, I think we realized the dream of the like bar restaurant is dead. Like that's not going to happen because we have something here. We have something we didn't expect that could be really special. And so it was kind of like either we go back to trying to raise money for that or we try to expand regionally. And so that was what we chose. And so I grew up in Illinois. We have a lot of family. Actually, Jamie partially grew up in Illinois too. We have a lot of family and friends there. It was like, all right, that's kind of a natural next step. There's already demand. Our family is asking when they can get it, that kind of thing. So it's like, all right, maybe there's something there. So we did end up linking up with the distributor there. And then at the same time, we were like, well, we'll already be in Chicago. What if we just like spend a little time up north and hit Wisconsin too? And so we launched in Wisconsin through a contact from Hotel Tango, which, you know, so we have the same distributor as.
That's one piece that is underrated of like other brands like hooking, because like not that you would be necessarily competing directly against their, you know, because they're like bottled spirits,
right?
But it's like, you know, at a time when alcohol consumption is going down, like people kind of like, I don't know, tend to like tense up a little bit. But for them to like make an introduction to you, that's huge.
We're very, very grateful for sure. In hindsight, I wish we would have opened only one state instead of two. We were already stretched thin. I was not even full time in the business then. We didn't have a sales staff, so it was like it made it really hard to like provide proper air cover for all of those for like Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago burbs, even downstate. Indy, Fort Wayne, South Bend, you know, it's just like the list goes on. And so we didn't have the process nailed down for that. So that was maybe, in hindsight, I would have done it differently. But, you know, then it pushes your back up against the wall, you figure it out, and we built the process.
Okay, so now how many states are you currently available in today?
We're still in those three. So yeah, Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin. But we are planning to expand into Kentucky and Ohio over the next couple years as well.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's, you got to think about boots on the ground and like how people, especially because what worked, the recipe, right, was doing all those events. And it's like, it is unrealistic for you to do 1 million events in 3 different states all the time, every weekend gone. You have, you said your youngest were 9. Like that's a really hard state, a really interesting stage of life to be in. Throughout this, then you have to go through a rebrand.
Yes. So that was part of the decision to like move away from the bar restaurant and like move all the way into the canned cocktail business. Because at the time, let's say this, we kind of had an inkling that this might be necessary in early 2024, or maybe like late 23, because High and Mighty Distillery and Lemon Shake-Up were 2 different brands. And we were known for Lemon Shake-Up. And when we went into Illinois and Wisconsin, like nobody cares about High and Mighty Distillery. That doesn't mean anything to them. Lemon Shake-Up does. And so it was like, all right, well, maybe we need to go a little further into that. That was what we ultimately did. But not just because of that. The other thing that was happening at the same time was that, so our old cans had these like little characters on them. I described the lemon guy, the lemon character, we made it into a mascot. Very cute, very fun. Oops, they look like a kid's drink. We were getting a lot of flack.
Like from where?
Well, there is a body that governs like all of the labels called the TTB, and we have to submit through that. And so we were getting feedback like, hey, this might not be something you want to like do long term. Like technically it's legal, but like you're kind of in a gray area here. It looks like a kid's drink. And then we were also getting feedback from potential investors that were like, hey, this is really fun. You're making great progress. The characters are a no-go for us. There's too much liability. Looks like a kid's drink. It looks like the Little Miss characters, like the books from like the 90s.
I loved the characters.
Same.
Lemmy was awesome.
Yeah.
Great time. But I can see from like a legality perspective that, you know.
It was a lot of personality, but
so then with the rebrand, you had to grow up. You know. So you have to drop the characters, because I remember the little stickers. Like every drink had its own character.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
But
like fun. It does make sense. I see how it all comes together. So you have to drop the characters.
Yeah.
You rebrand to Shake Up.
Rebrand to Shake Up.
Did you have to like change the design of the can or anything?
Just the label itself. But I mean, really what we decided to do was kind of lean into the fair association a little bit more. So if you could see this on the video, like there's like the circular aspect to the logo and like these lines that are kind of, it's like, the tilt-a-whirl or the Ferris wheel. And then inside the lettering is like these little lights that remind you of like, golden hour at the fair, everything lights up. It's just like special, right? I just remember being a kid, like going to like, it was like the 4th of July, like neighborhood carnival kind of thing. And like the lights at night, it was like, oh, I get to stay up late and like go on rides until I puke and like whatever. So that's what we tried to mimic here.
Yeah. And that launched May of 25.
Yeah. It was like this spring.
Like what, a couple months ago?
Yeah, a couple months ago.
How have things been going?
Well, it's going well. I was telling you before, like there's still a lot of our old packaging on shelves, so it's taken some time to kind of like move a lot of that out and get all the new stuff in, and so that's definitely a process. But one of the things, I mean, we get a lot of feedback now. People are like, I love the logo. I love the brand. Buyers for liquor stores are like, this looks so much more professional. Like, I get it. Like the fair, yes, I love it. So like we're getting a lot of really good feedback, but ultimately the rollout is just like, it takes like a year basically.
Oh yeah. And during this time, you also ended up getting to work with some cool university partners. Was the Cherry Shake Up first?
Yes. So yeah, in 2023, we launched the Cherry Shake Up with the fair. We actually partnered with Ball State University on that. So a close friend of mine, Sean Sullivan, who lives in the neighborhood, who's now he worked for Ball State at the time as like an associate or assistant athletic director. And he was like, hey, canned cocktails, beer licensing with universities is becoming a thing. You should check this out.
Is this Sean now he's with Horizon League?
Yes.
Yeah,
correct.
he's spectacular.
Also, Pacers and Fever announcer, like in stadium.
Like PA announcer.
Yeah, PA announcer.
Yeah,
yes,
Sean rocks.
Sean rules. So he was like, hey, you should check this out. By the way, Ball State might be interested. And I was like, oh, I went to Ball State. That's my alma mater. There's a good story there. I went through the entrepreneurship program. Here I am, like prodigal son returning home to like, make good on university, whatever. So anyway, we launched it with Ball State. Ball State, it's a big school, a lot, huge alumni base. So, it helped us kind of get some exposure through that alumni base, and that was pretty cool.
So was it sold on campus?
It was sold on campus, like football, stadium, basketball, games, etc. But Muncie's not really a huge town. So the influence was pretty much through university and alumni exclusively. So it really, it was somewhat limiting in terms of what we could do with that license. Yeah. But then we realized, hey, like Butler University here in Indy is a much bigger market. The alumni base is pretty big as well. There might be something there.
And they're bringing more people in, like, and this is no dig on Ball State or anything like that, but it's like more people go to Butler boys men's basketball games than, I don't know, probably several of Ball State sports combined.
Absolutely, yeah. Butler basketball is huge. They had the run in 2010 and 2011. It was a total blast. Well, my wife Jamie is a Butler alum, so it just made a lot of sense. We could, start a conversation with them really easily, and they got it on the PR side. It was like, we can tie this together. It tells a great story of our alumni's being successful in business, outside, after they graduate, what have you. So, they put it in in their Butler magazine. They help us promote at events. They helped us, honestly, they brought it to like JMV on, 1070 The Fan or whatever, that kind of stuff.
What was that one called?
Pool Blue. So it is not a shake-up. Like it's a Butler canned cocktail. So it's got the Butler, like the vintage Butler logo with the bulldog on it. It says Cool Blue in big letters. It's just like fun and bright.
And is it gin based?
That one is actually vodka based.
Vodka based.
So their thing
not
was
a shake-up.
Like, not a shake-up. So it was like, if we're not doing shake-up, we can do whatever we want. And they were like, hey, let's do the 100 calorie thing, like a high noon. Blueberry, Butler Blue.
Yeah.
So it's a blueberry lemon vodka cocktail. Yeah, it's delightful. It's lighter than a lemon shake-up, but I mean, it's
when you say
awesome.
Lighter, what do you mean by that?
Different categories in the RTD space. Almost everybody thinks about like high noon. So
because they're like a Head and Shoulders, and I've talked to Bryson, so like they're like the market leader of RTDs.
Absolutely, and like Mom Water's another example where it's like LaCroix with vodka almost. That's maybe I don't mean to knock them in that way. That's not like a knock. It's more just like it's a light essence-based
And
flavor
no,
profile.
it's light flavor, no carbonation.
Right.
Like it is, it is like, but you have to like that.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a fan of Mom Water for sure. But like even with High Noon, it's like, it's just like there's a whisper of a flavor there. It's light. You can drink a bunch of them if that's your thing.
What are they, that's sessionable.
Sessionable.
It's very
There you go.
sessionable.
Lemon shake up. We make it like a lemon shake up. So it's all real stuff. We use real lemon. We make a gin with it. We use like real cane sugar in it. So it's not like, it's not like super sweet. It's very balanced. It's not like high sugar or anything like that. But it's when you taste it, it's like, oh, that's a full flavored cocktail. When you taste a High Noon, you're like, oh, okay, that's something I can just chug.
Sessionable, right? Versus you're sitting down to enjoy a cocktail, a lemon shake up cocktail. Then with the Cool Blue, that is more on the like lighter, sessionable side.
Yeah. So they thought,
as long as the dogs are winning,
for sure. Which we'll get there.
Yeah,
we'll get
absolutely.
there again.
Come on.
We'll get there again.
I love it, man. Okay, so you guys rolled that out. Was that last season?
Yeah, that was last season.
That would have been 24, 25?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a couple other things that we introduced this year, which are like really like nailing it now. So the first is that we did a variety 8-pack. So it's like lemon shake up, cherry shake up, peach shake up, which we launched last year, and then a brand new blueberry, which is like blueberry lemonade. And that one is lights out. It is so good. We use a real wild blueberry. It's like just dynamite. And so people are buying it, because they want to try the blueberry flavor. And that was like, remember when I said, hey, audience, social media audience, what's the number one flavor you want to see from us? Well, everybody said blueberry this year. And so I was like, all right, let's do that.
So blueberry lemonade?
Yeah, it's a blueberry lemonade. Yeah.
Not a shake up?
It is a shake up.
So blueberry lemonade shake up.
Yeah.
That sounds fire.
It's delightful.
Wait, did we get some of that in our?
Oh yeah.
We
got you.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we also launched an iced tea lemon. Just iced tea is very popular with spirits right now. It's
kind of
half
like
and half,
that.
like
Yeah,
Arnold
yeah.
Palmer
A little
kind of
Arnold
thing.
Palmer.
Yeah. We have a wizard on our team. His name is Nick Traeger, and he.
Shout out Nick.
Yeah.
He's the wizard, the flavor wizard.
He is, and he crushed it.
I love it, man. It's so cool. Especially, I feel like I got introduced to you guys pretty early on, and to be able to like follow the process, throughout these past couple of years, it's awesome. And just the innovative way, you can definitely tell that you guys are. People that go and start businesses, sometimes they're product people, sometimes they're sales people. One thing you guys do really well is your social media in general, like just like marketing.
Thanks, Nick.
I think your brand is really, really strong, and it's always fun to watch. With or without Lemmy, it's still fun to watch, right? So it's cool to see this evolution to shake up and what you guys have been doing, and I think that's such a great brand.
Thank you.
I'm surprised, honestly, that wasn't like.
I know, me too. Somehow I got the trademark.
Hey,
That's the trademark for Shake Up and Lemon Shake Up. So hey, I'll
you
take it.
have the trademark for lemon shake up.
Well, they do it based on category. So I have it for alcohol, but still, that does feel like
That's kind of sick.
I know it does feel like it should have
be-
been done before, but
Yeah,
here we
that
are.
might be worth like, I don't know, $5 million on its own. The alcohol trademark for lemon shake up, like that.
That's a good point.
That seems like that has some like brand equity behind it on its own. That's sick. Okay.
yeah.
I love it, dude. It's been cool. I'm excited. So we have a few fun Indiana-based questions left. Before we get to that, I do want to say, I feel like from the outside looking in, especially before I started having lots of conversations with beverage brand owners, like it's like, oh, it's all fun. You're drinking, you're building, like, what's the biggest misconception about owning an alcohol brand?
On the back end, it's not glamorous at all. Like our distillery is like a manufacturing plant, basically. Like we have a canning line, we have all these tanks. It's a warehouse, so it's not super glamorous. On the front end and social media, it's all about like the customer, the people who enjoy our stuff. So like I make our social media, our marketing about them because like that's really like what the brand has become.
Okay, this next question, it's brought to you by our friends at JC Hart. They're a leader in creating enjoyable living experiences at apartment communities all across Indiana and beyond. Check them out at homeisjchart.com. My question for you, Dan, why do you call Indiana home?
Part of the reason I've stayed in Indiana, because there was like this huge brain drain like thing, phenomena in the mid 2000s around here. People leaving, they graduate from IU or Purdue or Butler, wherever, and they would leave the state to get jobs on the coast or whatever. Part of the reason I stayed is that like you can do anything you want here. If you want to start a media business, like telling the story of Indiana, you can literally just do that, and here you are, Nate. If you want to start a distillery, you can do that. And guess what I did?
A distillery at the state fairgrounds.
Yeah,
you can figure out how to do
absolutely.
that.
And back at the time when I moved here, I actually was a traveling musician. I was a starving artist. And so I was like, I can live on Butler's campus basically for super cheap with my bandmates, and we can tour the country, and like we don't have to worry about like crazy debt. Like, so anyway, you can do whatever you want here. Economically, it's a pretty great setup.
I love that, man. Okay, we got some rapid fire questions for you. What flavor are you holding out for? Like, if you could just like snap your fingers and launch a new flavor of Shake Up, what would it be?
Oh man, it'd be like kind of like an Aperol spritz kind of thing.
I'm gonna toss it up for you.
Bring it.
Peanut butter and jelly Shake Up. Whoa! Ooh, heyo!
Peanut butter is my favorite treat, so you nailed it.
I think when I think of like, childhood nostalgia type stuff, like
Yes.
a lemon Shake Up, and there might be something there. You and Jamie both grew up around fairs, especially Jamie grew up around fairs. But when you think about your time at state fairs, county fairs, what are your top 2 things that you got to get every time you go to the state fair?
My kids, they love the grilled cheese at the Dairy Barn. But there's like some fun hidden gems at the fair, which we didn't really get into. But like when I bring the kids to the fair, there's like a couple things that they have to do. Number one, they love going to the DNR building, the Department of Natural Resources, and fishing. You can go fishing at the state fair, and they love to fish. And it's just like a catch and release thing, but like it's
That's
awesome
pretty
and
cool.
hilarious. Yeah, and it's outdoor, but I mean, it's like awesome. So there's that.
Probably everyone catches a fish. Like it's like a small enough space.
Literally,
It's
like
you
everyone
can't-
catches a fish.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and then like, in the Pioneer Village area, there's like, it's like a maple cream that you can get, and they'll like give you free samples, and that is delicious. So the kids are like, all right, number 1, we're doing this. Number 2, we're going to get the maple cream. Number 3, we're going to the Dairy Barn.
There you go. What was the first local partnership that you guys got where you just like were over the moon about?
Hi-Fi music venue down in Fountain Square. Like we partnered with them pretty early. They took a chance on bringing us in, and our stuff just flies there. It's awesome. We have a 16-ounce tall boy lemon shake up.
Oh.
And it just flies. And so it's fun. Like, I don't know, like that's like one of my favorite venues. I grew up playing music as a musician. So it's like you go to the concert, outdoor venue, lemon shake up. It's just like that's summer right there.
Do you have any good advice for first time state fair goers?
I would go in the morning, like for sure. So like if you have to go on a weekend, like get there like at like 9 a.m. and like go through like early afternoon. So it's not crazy hot.
Top 3 things. So you kind of talked about what to get, but are there like booths or spaces to go visit or rides to ride or things to do while you're in the catch and release fish? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the DNR thing is cool for sure. There is, for little kids, there's Little Hands on the Farm is this like special like little experience where they like learn about day in a life of a farmer, and they like go through this little trail, and they pick up like seeds, and they plant the seeds and that kind of stuff, and then at the end they get like a chocolate milk or like a granola bar. Yeah, and so they're like, oh, we gotta get that granola bar. But that's like a fun special thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. These are the same 3 questions that I ask everyone who comes on the show. It's where we learn a little bit more about what Indiana means to you and some cool stuff going on. So first question, Dan, you're originally from Illinois, right? Chicago suburbs?
Yep.
Is that what you said? What's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
Indiana has this flyover state like reputation. Hopefully that's changing. I think you're doing a lot to change the image of Indiana. It's a beautiful state, like amazing state parks. So for me, it's like I would love for people to know that like this is a place that you can come visit and like have a really special experience. So like we love going to Turkey Run and Shade State Parks, and like there's awesome lakes like all over, not just like near the Bloomington area, a ton of like really killer lakes up north like as well.
Northern Indiana is like our like little version of like Minnesota, like the land of
Yeah.
10,000 lakes. Like there's a ton of, and they're different. Like
Yeah.
the lakes down here, like the lakes down around central to southern Indiana are different than the lakes up in northern Indiana.
Yep.
It's just like a really interesting, as I explore more of the state, it's cool to see these different regions and like what their, what life looks like in the southeast part of the state versus the southwest part of the state versus the north. I don't know. I love it all.
Yep.
Next, this is where you get to shed some light on a piece of the state that more people need to be talking about. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
The South Bend area is really fun. There is a town directly next to South Bend called Mishawaka, and it is awesome. Like there's like this downtown river area that's beautiful, and then there's some really killer restaurants there too. Like there is a like a beer bar, like a craft beer bar called Hop Station. Shout out Hop Station and Casey. Have you been? You know them?
Yes.
They are awesome.
We sponsored Connect 574's 574 Pizza bracket.
Oh, yeah.
And Hop Station won because they do the craziest stuff with pizza.
Yes.
With pizza, Italian, like hot dog. It was crazy. Like it was nuts.
Lots of hidden gems, but Mishawaka is one.
I just was up in Mishawaka. We did a whole video about. It's called Indiana Rug Company. They sell a bunch of merch and different South Bend and Indiana specific stuff, and they have some really cool stuff there. In the history of Mishawaka, and there's like this whole thing with ball band rubber and these boots, and wow, this is a really cool kind of like overlooked part. Like everyone says South Bend, but Mishawaka is an awesome, like they're basically the same thing.
Boom,
they're right
baby.
there. Well, don't tell the locals that I said that.
Yeah.
Finally, this is where we get recommendations for guests to be on the podcast or people that we need to know about. Who is a Hoosier that we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
Yeah, I mean, I would go Jess West Costumes for
Jess
sure.
West Costumes.
Yeah, you got to have her on. So if you Google her, she's been on, the cover of Indie Star and stuff like that because she makes these like amazing costumes that you see, like basically like she is like somebody who creates costumes for films almost. So like she'll do like a Chewbacca replica costume, and it's just like, oh, that's Chewbacca. She does all kinds of stuff. And then recently, I think it was like within the last 2 years, she was on. It was either Netflix, it was or MTV or something. She was on a reality costume contest TV show, and I don't know how far she made it in there, but it just goes to show that like there aren't that many folks doing what she does across the country or across the world or what have you. But she's right here in Indy, and she's a gem, and she made our Lemmy lemon costume, and even though couldn't put my arms down, it was a total blast to wear.
What happened with the costume?
I still got it, so when you're ready to wear it, it's ready for you.
Yes, there we go. I love it, man. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for telling us the journey from launching this distillery at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, your guys' expansion into 3 states, shifting from having to rebrand as Shakeup, and all the amazing things you guys are doing, partnering with Ball State, partnering with Butler. I'm really excited to continue to follow this journey.
Well, thanks for having me, Nate. It's a blast.
Love it, man. Talk soon.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.